The UFC's heavyweight division is a complete disaster, and today I want to talk about why and some things that we can maybe do to fix it. Now, the first thing is heavyweight is just historically thin in terms of talent. I mean, there's not that many people that are that big, high 6 feet. I'm talking 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and above 205 pounds, right? The minimum for heavyweight is 206, and the max is 265. Though, if you really want to compete in heavyweight, you probably want to be at least 230. And there's just not that many people that are that big, and the ones that are and that are athletic are probably playing football. Very few athletes that are that size go into MMA. A lot of them will go to sports that pay more, like football, basketball. They want to make more money, and it just makes sense for them to play those sports. So we just don't have a lot of big UFC or big MMA guys that are really going to be that skillful. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this. Jon Jones was very skillful for a heavyweight, but he spent most of his time at light heavyweight and wasn't a really big heavyweight. Tom Aspinall is an outlier. He's a true heavyweight, and he is extremely talented, but there's not that many of those guys, which is why you'll see guys in the UFC who maybe are on losing streaks, or you see their name a lot because it kind of just gets recycled. The UFC also has aging contenders in the heavyweight division, which makes sense considering there's just not a lot of guys that big. For example, Cyril Gane is the #1 ranked heavyweight. He's 35 years old and has already had 2 title shots and lost both of them. Alexander Volkov is #2 ranked guy. He's 36. Tybura is #7 and he's 39. Derek Lewis, #9 ranked, is 40 years old. Shamal Gaziev is ranked 11 and he's 35. So there's just a lot of older guys and not a lot of young, talented guys in the heavyweight division. There are some young guys, don't get me wrong, but in terms of the next young heavyweight prospect, do we really have one? Can you think of one? There's also a lack of fighters, as we already talked about, but there's also a lack of skill, and this shows if you look at the rankings of the heavyweight division. For example, Kuniev is ranked number 15. He's had 1 fight in the UFC, and he lost that fight against Curtis Blades, and yet he's number 15. He's a ranked fighter. That's ridiculous. Tai Tuivasa is the 10th ranked heavyweight, and he's lost 5 fights in a row. 5 fights in a row. Yet he's ranked. That's utterly insane. Spivak is ranked number 8, yet he's 1-3 in his last 4. Also insane that you can be in the top 10 and you've won 1 fight in your last 4. It just shows that there's not a lot of people in the heavyweight division. There's not a lot of skill, not a lot of talent. So they have to keep guys in the rankings, or else if they really honored the rankings, it would probably look pretty insane, to be honest. And then, of course, something that made heavyweight even worse is the Jon Jones situation. Jones obviously moved up, beat Cyril Gane for the vacant belt, and then got injured and had to sit out for a while. While he was injured, Tom Aspinall became the interim champ, and when he came back, instead of fighting Tom Aspinall, which is what you're supposed to do when there's an interim champ, he fought Stipe Miocic, an old man who had already retired and come out of retirement for the fight. And then afterwards, he proceeded to still not fight Tom Aspinall and just sat out, causing the top of the heavyweight division to quite literally stall. Then Jon up and retired without fighting a single heavyweight contender. Not a single one. Now, obviously, we all have very strong opinions about the Jon Jones situation, but you have to admit it really did negatively affect heavyweight, which already was not the best division in the UFC. Now, there are some pros to the heavyweight division. We are starting to see guys come in that are maybe a new generation. For example, Cyril Gane may not be the most skilled heavyweight, but he moves like a smaller man, and he's a very good striker. He has some holes in his game, but he's overall not a terrible fighter. Tom Aspinall is definitely the evolution of the big man. He is extremely big guy. He's 6'4", 6'5". I think he's 240 or some shit, and he moves like a small guy. He moves like a middleweight or a welterweight. Same thing with Cyril Gane. And he's a great grappler, so that kind of shows that heavyweight is evolving. But if we really want heavyweight to keep evolving, we need guys like Tom Aspinall to fight often, and we need him to fight the best competition he can in order to maybe get some big guys that are out there and aren't doing MMA to go, hey, I want to try MMA. There are some names outside of the UFC. For example, Gable Steveson, the former Olympic wrestler, did recently debut in MMA in the LFA, and he did win by knockout, TKO. But he's got a long road to the UFC, but I like to see big guys that are killing it in other areas, such as wrestling or boxing or something like that, come to the UFC, come to MMA. Obviously, that would help the talent pool be bigger, but that's really the biggest issue. It's the talent pool is so small. For example, as of 7 months ago, there are only 30 UFC heavyweights. Then you look at a division like lightweight, there's 102 as of 7 months ago. Huge difference. Huge. So if you ask me, the way to get the heavyweight division back on track, or maybe just on track in general, is we need fights to happen more often. We need people to see and realize that the UFC is viable for heavyweights. We need to get more people interested. So we need more UFC fights. We need Aspinall to fight, which of course he's fighting Cyril Gane soon, which should be a good fight. And then after that, we need Aspinall to stay an active champ, assuming he beats Cyril Gane, which I do think he will. And that's just what the heavyweight division really needs, is activity, and maybe we'll start to see that talent pool increase. But at the end of the day, it is always going to be kind of hard given how the lack of people that are that big and skillful enough to make it to the UFC. Thank you guys for watching that video. That's all from me. I will see you in the next one. Peace.